and 7. So how do you create unique abilities and magic systems within this series and these books?
Well, for me, I wanted, like I was saying earlier, I wanted to be kind of something that people were familiar with. So you had wands, hand magic,
Oh,
staves, and
cool.
stuff like
Yeah.
potions and charms and whatnot. But I had to go back to that plausibility thing. How does magic, how do certain people have magic and other people don't?
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I had to go back and read biology. So I'm like, okay, so people that can wield magic have more neurons in their brain, up to 6 to 8 times more neurons. So in order for them to be able to handle the magic, and then I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, then there are other people in the world that can wield magic, but not to the degree that a wizard can. Like Michael Jordan could be considered a wizard because he's just awesome at playing basketball. Or you have, cooks and, writers and, even politicians to some, that are able to sway people and whatnot. You can say those to a lesser degree can wield magic, but not to the degree that you have wizards that have 6 to 8 times the amount of neurons in their brains, like Solomon can. So they can actually pull energy in from the world around them and store it like a battery and then release it. And the reason that they use wands, rings, bracelets, staves, and charms is so they can channel it. It's like a nozzle on a pressure washer. So
Yeah.
for me, I mean, that was the one, Harry Potter is like one of those wonderful stories that have everything that's in it. And then of course you have Lord of the Rings, and then there's other ones that, I've obviously enjoyed Mortal Kombat, but the martial arts
Oh, yeah.
they're using the martial arts in order to use their magic and stuff like that,
Yeah.
transformation and stuff like that. So I wanted it to be plausible, but I also wanted it to be familiar. So I wouldn't say I cheated a little bit, but I definitely went back and I guess you could say I took the easy way out in that an aspect of it, because you know writing your first novel, it's like you want people to be interested in it. And there are some indie authors out there that create these amazing systems, like, where spirits are imbued into people's beings, which give them the ability to wield magic. And it's like, I couldn't even think of things like that. And this is amazing. But I wanted it so people like, I want to get into the character. Oh, and they do magic, that sort of thing. So I wanted the world
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
be interesting enough that people were brought in by the characters and for the urban fantasy aspect of it, and say, oh, this is a familiar thing, but it kind of is a little bit plausible to me.
I think it makes total sense. I loved when Brandon Sanderson came on the scene and
Hmm.
started this whole thing because it made you think differently, right? But now
Yeah.
I feel like everybody feels you have to have a unique magic system, and I'm a person where I'm like at a point where I'm like, I just want good characters. I want some cool magic or some cool magic items. Like maybe it's a cool power, right? Like
Hmm.
Nightcrawler and X2, right? The White House scene where he's just popping in and out. How
Hmm.
they used his one ability, right, that you don't think is that big of a deal, and how they were able to utilize it in that scene. You're like,
Yeah.
holy crap, that made you think completely different about this skinny little dude, right? Who,
Hmm.
has an accent and used to work for the circus, but you're
Yeah.
like, holy crap, he might be like that power level in my mind for him totally went up,
Yeah.
compared to what he was in the cartoon. He was kind of tropey in the cartoon. I loved how they turned him into an actual character, but I loved how they used that power, which most people like, yeah, I teleport, but like you can't go that far, right? Because he has to go within sight. And I was like, man,
Mhm.
what a way to use that and his acrobatic ability to make it really cool. So for me, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't really care how it works. You know what I mean? If it's cool and it's interesting and your characters are, I'll read it. But like I think
Yeah.
now we're getting a little too magic system heavy, if that makes sense. I don't really care. Forgotten Realms, I know how it works because I played all the games and stuff, like the video games,
Mhm.
Baldur's Gate and stuff like that, but I don't care, right? When I'm reading a book and a character does something, I'm like, cool, they can do it. Is it a cool power? Sweet, let's move on, So
Yeah.
I think some people put too much stock in it nowadays, but if you have something that's cool, that's great. But sometimes I think people get stuck. I have to create a cool magic system. I don't. I'm like, I just like tell you what happens, through the
Cool.
story. And if you like it, cool. If you don't, okay, go read Brandon Sanderson. He'll tell you exactly how it works. I don't do that. So again, I think, each to their own for
Yeah.
reading and for writing, but I think that makes total sense.